What's up? How's it going, guys? Welcome to Something to Talk About. I am Taco, and, well, you know what this is. This is my Season 2 review of The Wire. So this is every episode of Season 2. I will be doing it in order, and I will be giving it a grade between 0 and 10. So let's explain what's going on here. I don't do any edits. I do all these in one take, pretty much so I can get a nice mixture of my improv skills, which I don't know, I think I got some, and my script writing. So, you know, if you just go straight off your head, sometimes you forget some facts. So I try to do a little both. If I say and I stutter a lot, you know, everybody does that. Just normal people edit it out, and I am not a normal person. So that out of the way, please like and subscribe if you haven't, and if you enjoy this, I've done Season 1 already, so you can check that out. If you're interested in me just talking about an entire series, I have done every episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender in the same format. And yeah, let's freaking kill it, yo. This is Season 2. I really like Season 2, and I don't know, I think there was something else I was going to say. But that's kind of why most people go off scripts. Should we just get into it? So, also, I'm on vacation right now. So I actually recorded this a couple days in advance. So, yeah, it's like, do normal people do that? I'm currently in New Hampshire with my wife for our 5-year anniversary. But show must go on. I still want to put out a show every Friday, or at least every Saturday, once a weekend, whatever. So let's do it. And let's talk about Season 2 of The Wire. Right away, I just want to say I'm not one of the people that consider Season 2 inferior. It has its ups and its downs, just like most seasons. There are moments and characters that I really love from this season. I do think it is weaker, but that does not mean I think it is weak. I just think the rest of the show is amazing. And maybe I don't even consider this the worst. I think Season 5 is a little worse. But once we get to Season 5, I'll also explain why Season 5 isn't bad. I love Season 2. I have a lot of things I'm going to enjoy about this. Now, let's talk about the ranking. That's what I was going to say. I've had some people kind of confused. Like, I'll say, oh, I really liked it. It's like A tier, and then I'll give it like a 7. So this is how I broke it down. So I originally wrote these for tier list. The first one I ever did, I was doing as a tier list, right? And then I'm like, oh, I don't want to do tier. I'll just do it. So I just kind of converted everything over to numerical. So D, C, B, A, S. I didn't have any F tiers. So those 5 tiers, I broke them down into high and low, and that ended up being 10, right? So low D is 1. High D is 2. All the way up to high S is 10, low S is 9. So that's why if I really like something and I'm like, ooh, that's high B, it's why it's not a very high number, right? So there we go. And let's get right into episode 1, Ebb Tide. Just like all seasons, we get a slow burn, seeing where our characters are and introducing new ones. The Union, as a union worker, which I am, in a factory, I have a lot in common and sympathy for the dock workers, the union guys of this season. And the theme of the season being the death of work hits really hard, or hits really at home. So the whole death of work thing, I think I wrote this part of the script before I did my Season 2, but I do have a Season 2 death of work theme analysis where I just break down the theme of the death of work, and it's kind of my defense for Season 2, so I'm not going to super get into it here. This is just more about the episodes. But if you want to see that, go watch it. Yeah, so I like the dock workers a lot. Frank has 3 and so it starts off with us meeting all the dock workers. Frank has 3.5 inches of hard blue steel. Nikki and even Ziggy, I like them all. We actually all know a Ziggy, which is why I'm kind of more into defending Ziggy than other people. He's a skinny white boy that acts like a big tough boy. Herc's white drug dealer monologue is a top Herc moment when he's talking about how they should make different laws when they're dealing with white drug people because they are worse at it. I asked the guy if I could buy some drugs, and he goes, cool. We bring the money, and I'll bring the drugs. And that's what happened, because they're so used to the Tower Boys in season 1 who have their code, and you have to like work around their system in order to get stuff. I love it. Leave no white drug dealer behind. And the bodies in the can is the exciting moment of the season. Exciting incident, sorry, that kicks off the season. And I love the absurdity that the only reason major crimes is started is because Frank bought a window. So literally the whole reason why this season is a thing is because Frank Sobotka bought a window and pissed off Stan Velchek, and that's why season 2's major crime unit exists. It's very absurd, and I like it. So the season starts slow. I left out a lot of other stuff, but seriously, there's not a lot to leave out. It's just kind of like where our characters are, where Daniels ended up, where Kima ended up, all that stuff. There's not a lot of real story here, you know? So it's a decent start, I guess. And here, let me get my rankings. So, like I said, it's about a B tier, straight up B tier. So we're going to go 6.5 out of 10. It's a good start. It gets us moving. All right, so let's talk about episode 2, Collateral Damage. This episode starts by showing us both the fact Avon's crew doesn't have a supply and that D'Angelo is cold to Avon right now. I could take a moment and say that I love that Weebay has a fish tank and a cell with mechanical fish. It's so great. I love it. Velchek shows up to talk to Frank, and Frank could have saved himself a crap ton of trouble, like all the trouble this entire season, if he didn't piss off Velchek even more, which he then does. But of course, I don't really blame him because Velchek's kind of an epic D-bag. This episode still has a lot of setup. Rawls fighting to get not to have the 14 bodies. He ultimately fails, and the department gets them. Bunk and Lester make McNulty take 14 shots for it, which is a great scene. Then they learn Jay gives them all 14 Jane Does. We also get our first look at how brutal the Greeks can be when they do their own investigation to the death of the girls. It's still a setup episode getting us ready for the rest of the season, and it's slowly getting somewhere. There's a lot less going on in this episode compared to the one before, so I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. We're still not in the meat and potatoes yet, but, you know, we got meat and potatoes coming. I ordered some. I ordered us some meat and some potatoes. Omar is back with a new boyfriend. Here's Hot Shots, episode 3. And he recruits 2 new girls, Kimmy and Tasha, who were robbing the same place they were about to rob. We see the introduction of Blind Butchie, who becomes a pretty major character. And I really like Butchie, his folksy wisdom, how he kind of looks down at Omar like a son, and kind of he has like that blind wise man stuff. Avon and Stricker are following the dirty guard Tillman, looking to get rid of him and help shorten Avon's sentence. So they want to kind of do a 2 birds with one stone situation. We also follow Lester, Bunk, and Beatty further into the investigation, talking with the boat workers and learning how much the women in the can are worth. Meanwhile, Stringer hits up Dee's girl to tell her to visit more. Oh, yeah. So he also just bangs her. Like, I want to do a favor for D'Angelo, so you want to go, you should go visit him more. He like needs your love, and he needs to see his kid, and we got to keep him in the pocket, and he loves you. You want to bang? Stringer's a piece of crap. I think that's the next thing I have written down. Yeah, he's a real dirtbag. That's what I said. Meanwhile, Nikki and Ziggy steal some cameras, and Frank bribes a union member not to leave, showing us how bad things have gotten and how much Frank really cares about his guys and really cares about his union. Frank is a really good character. I like Frank a lot. We end up with Tillman's dope killing 5 guys. So seriously, 2 birds with one stone means murdering 5 people. Yeah. Welcome to Drug Game. Even more than the last 2 episodes, this feels still like setup. Hopefully the majority of crime or the major crimes unit gets moving. That's kind of a problem with these early episodes of the season is the major crimes isn't up and moving yet. We're not seeing like Lester and all the stuff and showing the real battle because it all kind of does a lot of setup always in the beginning. So 4.5 out of 10, like mid C tier. And yeah, let's get to 5, which is hard cases. I think we're starting to cook with fire a little bit more. This one starts strong. There's a lot of good cold openings in this season. This one starts strong with a conversation about stealing between Frank and Nikki. I love this scene. So the performance at young Pablo Schreiber is so good. In fact, we got a lot of Nikki this episode. So the scene I'm talking about is when he calls him over to look at like the water at 7 a.m, and Frank gives him like a pep talk not to be stealing cameras, and it's a really good scene. So we got a lot of Nikki this episode. We learn more about Beatty Russell, and I'll take this time to say I freaking love Amy Ryan, who was in The Office and Birdman, one of my favorite movies of all time, 10 out of 10 movie. And other stuff, I really love Amy Ryan, and she is so good in this show, and she's so good in a lot of stuff. Daniels accepts the job to run major crimes and starts recruiting. Meanwhile, McNulty runs into Bubbles again and puts him on finding Omar, which somehow works. Beatty Bunk and Lester bring in Horseface Makuza, and we see how these dock boys are not stupid. With him asking for a union lawyer and the dock boys whistling when the cops come in. It's really of how these dudes have dealt with a lot of stuff with cops, and the union guys are, I wouldn't say like organized like the Tower Boys were season 1, but they really look out for their own, and they really have like I don't know. They got a great attitude. And they're not idiots. They come off as idiots, but they're really not. Frank smacks Ziggy, and when Ziggy asks him why, he goes, "Say cheese!" It is one of the most unintentionally funny lines in the whole show because the actor who plays Frank is so good. He puts like this "say cheese" face. It's so good. I don't think it's meant to be funny. Another funny scene is Kima and Daniels are having dinner with their ladies, and it juxtaposes Daniels having dinner with his wife and Kima having dinner with her girlfriend, wife, I don't know, whatever they are. And it shows like both of the significant others are super mad at them because they're both going back into doing like real police work, dangerous police work. Well, it's two different motivations for both of them, but either way, their significant others are very mad at them, and you get it cuts back and forth of this mirrored juxtaposed thing, which the show does a lot, and I love it. It's a really well shot and adorable scene of people being mad at their spouses. We end with Frank learning the can wasn't an accident, and we see how much it affects him. So Frank is a real person, and when he finds out that somebody murdered all those girls, it does affect him, and he feels partly responsible and all this stuff. And it's good. We're cooking a little more. I'm going to like mid B tier, so we're going to be at like a 5.5 out of 10. We're starting to get moving, just like every season. It takes a second to get really going. Undertow. We start by meeting Cheese, him beating up Ziggy. So we get to see Cheese, one of my favorite characters, played by Method Man, and we get to see them beat up on Ziggy and take his jacket. Iggy Pop is playing in the background. Hells yeah. Now that's how you start an episode. Introduction to Cheese and Method Man is a great addition to the show. So doubles hells yeah because of that. We get a little bit more Bubs. We don't get a lot of Bubs this season. But yeah, so Bubs gives McNulty Omar, and he teaches him what a Baltimore knot is. God, I was being really goofy when I wrote these. I have to interpret my own scripts right now. Where are we at? Undertow? All right. What's a Baltimore knot? I don't know, but it's never the same thing twice. Nicky tries to buy his aunt's old place from McNulty's ex-wife, and we get some classic gentrification. Yeah, gentrification. With the house being listed as a new fancy neighborhood instead of Locust Point, and it is overpriced. So again, I bring up all of that in my season 2 defense of season 2 of The Wire. So please go watch that, because I do talk about the entire political situation and what it's trying to say, and that's a big part of it. That moment, this episode, that scene's a big part of that. So, okay. Lester joins Major Crimes, and there's a funny scene with Lester already knowing who Frank is, because he's been talking to him about the death of the girls, or the murder of the 14 Jane Does. Stringer gets some help from his teacher on how to market his heroin, and that's just great. Your college professor teaching you how to market heroin better. Bunk and Beatty try to grand jury the union, and Frank gives this great monologue when they comes in to bring them to the grand jury about how the government tries to break up their union and how they still live. As a working union man, I love it. It is bittersweet knowing that the union doesn't survive this season. Herc with his toothpick prop is pure comedy. Herc's got a lot of good scenes this season. Lots of cop plot happening. Cop plot. Frank tries to get out. And the Greek guy Spiros reminds Frank how the clothes plant across the water used to make something, symbolizing the death of work, reminding Frank that he needs them. So what did I just say? So when he's trying to back out from working with the Greeks, the Greek Spiros, I don't think he's even Greek, but he points across the river to this plant that is now shut down. And he's like, wow, didn't they used to make stuff there? And then he realizes it's like almost this weird backhanded, not threat, but a way to be like, dude, you need us. That place is shut down. You guys are next. Well, how are you going to make money? And Frank then decides it's this really subtle, like, really? Because your economy is dying. Smuggle stuff for us. It's really subtle, and I love it. McNulty keeps looking for his Jane Doe. Stringer gives the dealers a lesson in economics, and Bodie shows some real smarts here. We end with Frank refusing to steal the cans. This episode moves the plot a ton, and we have a handful of good moments. We are moving forward, and you know what? Let's be nice. There, 6 out of 10. Is that going to hold you guys off until we're in the later season and start giving some really good ones? All right. All right, season 7. Now we're cooking. Ooh, this is going to be a long one. It's like half a page. This will be a long one. Best opening of probably the entire show. So like I said earlier, season 2's cold openings are money, especially later on. I don't think there's another cold opening to this show or this season after this episode that's bad. I think every cold opening the rest of the way is good. It's about halfway. So we're in the second half of the season, and holy crap, does it show. So best opening, Omar's in court. This scene alone is S tier if I wanted to just talk about Omar in court. It is so freaking iconic. Meanwhile, Major Crime starts kicking. Herc is creepy and weird. I'm not going to repeat what he asked Speedy, but it's not okay. Well, he asked her to get coffee, but what he tells Carver. That's what I should have said. We could do an entire video about Omar in court. So I'll save how much I like everything about that scene. Maybe I should just do a video. But I will say Michael K. Williams gets all the attention, and it is well earned. But Michael Khrushchev as Maurice Levy totally holds his own in this scene, and it is totally underrated. He is totally underrated in this show. Maurice Levy, the corrupted lawyer for the drug organizations, he is so good. That actor, Michael Khrushchev. I got to learn how to pronounce names. But yeah, this scene is probably the best in the entire show. Besides the court scenes, plenty of other great stuff. We have Kima showing Chardine, who we learn is with Lester. My man got Chardine. I shipped them in season 1. Kima goes off to the strip club with her lady because she won't let Kima go alone to the strip club. And Prez, and we see how uncomfortable sex makes Prez. So I could do a whole episode about Prez Belusky and how Prez Belusky is a child, because he's very innocent and also he's more like a like junior high age, like preteen, right? Because he's kind of violent when he wants to act cool in front of his friends in the first couple episodes of season 1, and then he just likes doing his puzzle games, and it's like a game and everything. He's very childish, and once you get over how horrible he was in the opening of season 1, you really learn how much of a innocent and special guy Prez Belusky is. And yeah, I'm not going to get into what happened in season 3, but okay. He's not really good police, sadly. So where was I? We learn how messed up the modern slave trade is with the legal girls. Truly messed up. It's this season really does kind of deal with that modern slavery, and it's really brutal. Nikki goes. Wait, where am I? Lester and Bunk and Beatty get on watching the boats unload. Nikki goes to the Greeks to help with Ziggy's problem with Cheese. The scene with them talking to Cheese, and later with Prop Joe, seeing how those worlds collide is so cool. Of how the Greeks and Prop Joe are kind of together. McNulty gives up on his Jane Doe, being that was his arc for the whole first half of the season. It makes you wonder if it was even worth it. So literally like a six episode arc was for him to try to figure out who his one Jane Doe was, and he couldn't do it. And that's kind of a really like sad thing. And it's a bold decision for kind of like your main character. I don't think McNulty's main character, but he's definitely one of them. For his entire arc in the first half of the season is kind of a waste. But yeah, it's bold. Does it pay off? I don't know. Maybe it's the writers telling us that sometimes you fail. And I think that's kind of what they're doing, is sometimes the arc can go nowhere, because that's World. I love that horse face telling the bar about the dude with the hair lip scene. It's pretty great. Yeah. It kind of reminds me of all the cool stories that the old timers at the factory I work at have. You know, you always hear about these old great stories about these guys who were working in the 70s before safety regulations. Okay, so here we go. Ziggy sucks. Ziggy lighting the $100 in front of the dock workers. He's a dick. I'm glad that his dad yells at him a little. And honestly, it's a pretty beautiful scene between them. And they only get a couple scenes together, Frank and Ziggy, and they're all kind of all beautiful. I'm not talking about the D stuff yet. So if you watch this chronologically, D'Angelo is brought up a lot, and I'm kind of been skipping over that until now. But it's all great. Lawrence Giller Jr., the guy who plays D'Angelo, does a great job in all of his scenes. But his review of The Great Gatsby the review of The Great Gatsby is really good. How he relates it to himself and his failed struggle to disconnect from his past, because that's kind of D'Angelo's whole story arc in the first 2 seasons, is him feeling like he has to be one way because that's how his family grew up, and that's where family he's in a family of drug dealers, and he now is in prison for it. And Great Gatsby kind of shows you that it's really powerful in how he has failed to disconnect, of how the past is always with you, and that's what he thinks it means. And it's kind of sad, especially since we know what happens the rest of this episode. I love how they shoot this moment. So it's what I use for the thumbnail right here that you guys are looking at. I love how this moment is shot. It's the final moment between Avon, and it starts up with a close-up, and then it's zooming out when Avon realizes that Dee doesn't love him anymore. He sees him, and he's like, hey, Dee. And then the realization, Dee just kind of gives him that, like, what look? Like, what do you want? And then Avon realizing, oh, there isn't anything here. There's no love left. And that's when it kind of zooms out. And you get this great Wood Harris, this actor who plays Avon, it's a great performance, and it's so well shot. And yeah, this all ends with his death, D'Angelo's death. How it is shot with one long close-up as he's being strangled is nothing short of heartbreaking. It is so hard to watch, and it's so agonizing because, well, being strangled is agonizing, and it's forcing us to watch the entire thing. It's not shot fun. It's not shot clean. It's not shot, in any way other than this is D'Angelo being strangled to death. And it's so cold, and it's very hard to watch. And it is sad and devastating way to end such a good episode. And yeah, you guys wanted me to give a high ranking, right? So with the D stuff, with both D and Wallace gone, it ends the good-hearted drug dealers. So I guess Bodie's not the most evil, but I mean, he still killed Wallace. These are the most heart-having of the drug dealers, and they're all gone. This episode is amazing. I mean, I can't believe it's all in the same episode, right? Like, it's packed, and it's packed with good stuff. We get Omar and Cord all the way down to D'Angelo dying, and it's one of the best episodes of the entire series, and it's a 10 out of 10. It's a top 8, high S tier. So yeah, there you guys go. There, you wanted one? I gave you one. All right, Backwash. Another awesome short cold open. Another strong cold open. I'm going to keep saying that for the rest of the way out. It starts with Bodie buying the flowers for Dee, and it's this cool little scene about the flower place having a secret gangster menu for flowers. I love it. I also love Frog. Now, after the cold open, Frog is the white dude that wishes he was black, and that slang for Ziggy. He's now talking to Nikki, and he's now slinging drugs for Nikki. And why do I love Frog? He's this really annoying, wishes he was a black character. And I love him because I had about 20 different frogs in my high school. White guys from North Dakota who had 0 reasons to speak street. It still happened. So yeah, that's why I love Frog, because it reminds me of that. Herc and Carver are at the police store buying the microphone that later becomes the informant Fuzzy Dunlop. And that's a huge storyline later on, not even in this season, but the Fuzzy Dunlop saga starts with Carver saying, head, deadhead. His name is Head. Dickhead, not Deadhead. This changed it to Dead. Head, Dickhead is the entire start to the Fuzzy Dunlop saga. So the Rotterdam scene is important. So Frank and Nat are watching a video about this new port, and it's important to the greater theme of the season. Again, going back to Death of Work, Ziggy's, so it's watching them the automation of their job. And again, that's a really big thing when you're talking about how a lot of the season's about this poor, lower middle class neighborhood, why they're losing work, why they're losing their neighborhoods due to gentrification, and automation's a big part of that, and that's what makes it seem so important. Okay. Ziggy gets served with fake paternity papers from Maui. The next chapter of the prank war. After Ziggy puts his dick in Maui's computer. I actually think that scene is super funny. Ziggy, how'd you get your dick in my computer? Or no, get your dick out of my computer. It's great. Prez, and also the fake pregnancy scene's pretty great too. Prez and Kima keep following the girls. Fuzzy Dunlop gets nailed by a semi, and Carver watches. It's a tragedy. Poor Fuzzy Dunlop. Speaking of tragedy, we see Dee's funeral, and we watch Dee's family crying as Stringer watches the crowd, showing how cold-blooded Stringer is, seeing the pain he caused with zero remorse. And he uses the funeral as an opportunity to talk to Prop Joe in making a deal. So he gets D killed and then makes a deal behind Avon's back at the funeral. Stringer is a cold bastard, guys. He is a cold bastard. Prop Joe and Stringer, talk Stringer into the, trade a good product for half of the good territory deal. And I do have to say, I freaking love Prop Joe. Hey, we're going to talk about more of the death of work. So following up the death of work story, we get the great scene as Frank is talking to Brucey, his lobbyist, about how his family were all dock workers and that his work is going away, which spells the end to his family. Brucey says because of education, his family got out of that cycle. A beautiful scene, is great. It's a very beautiful scene, and you can make both arguments of how I came from a family of stevedores, so I want stevedores, or I came from a family of farmers, so I want the rest of my family to be farmers, and then, or whatever your industry is, as it's fading away, and then the other guy goes, yeah, well, I worked really hard so I can become a lawyer or a lobbyist, so I don't have to be a stevedore. It's that argument. I mean, whatever. I don't have any criticism on it, or I don't have my own point on it. I'm just kind of telling you guys what the show says about it. I know I try not to talk about politics, and then I talk about The Wire. Major Crime Unit is finally in full swing, showing following the trucks that are doing the dirty. The episode ends with Daniels folding in the murders finally, with McNulty getting turned down by his ex-wife, just like the last season. We are now in full swing, and we are cooking with fire, and it takes a few episodes to get here, but here we are. We're finally doing it. The last episode was S. This one's not as S tier, but definitely high B tier, and that would be, let's go 6.5 out of 10, right? Wait, am I doing math right? Yeah, there you go. Am I doing math right? It's just counting. It's not even math. All right, episode 8, Duck and Cover. Yet another strong opening, a third in a row. McNulty being a hot, stinky mess. We hear Transmetropolitan by the Pogues, which is an awesome song and an awesome band. I love the Pogues. We see him crash his car twice, and then he bangs a waitress. Classic McNulty, him waking up with a broken car and in a stranger's bed covered in blood, really shows us how fast he can fall. The episode before, he was trying to convince his ex-wife, like, no, I'm the new McNulty, please. And then she turns it down, and this episode starts this way. Wow, dude, get a hold of yourself. Yeah, so the prank war between Maui and Ziggy comes to an end when his friends convince him to go up and punch Maui, and Maui brings him to the top of the stacks and then tosses him up there and leaves him. I love it. Ziggy just yells, "Bad advice! You guys gave me bad advice!" I love it. Over the years at a factory like I work at, which I keep saying, there has been a few people I wish I could do that to. we keep, we value safety a little more than these guys, but I would love to just like, you know what? Bring me up, guys. I can toss the dude on top of these stacks. Bunk joins Major Crimes, and it turns out he wasn't born in pinstripes. 2 funny scenes in a row with the pinstripe scene and the bad advice scene. No, hey, let's make that 3 scenes because we have Horseface saying that he is undecided on fake tits. That's a funny scene too. Meanwhile, Frank learns that his phone is flagged, showing us that he is not as stupid as he seems, which I was saying earlier, because he hasn't been paying his phone bill and he's wondering why they haven't disconnected it, and they're like, it's flagged, and he's like, flagged, and he realizes because it's tapped. It's really great. Where was I? Jimmy is dying to get involved. Bunk and Lester talk to Daniels to bring him in, and we get a really cool scene between Frank and his brother. Another scene showing us the position Frank is in, trying to get his brother involved to justify his own dealings in a really weird way. Fuzzy Dunlop gets a face, and Ziggy buys a duck. Oh, the duck saga. I love that when Daniels and Rawls go toe-to-toe. I love it. There's a really good scene of them going toe-to-toe. Rawls bucks on letting McNulty off the boat, but Steele lets him. He bucks, but he eventually caves. And McNulty's entrance is priceless when they're discussing who will infiltrate the prostitution ring in a great moment with a classic, "The fuck did I do?" As funny as all the duck scenes are with Ziggy, I freaking hate them. I hate animal cruelty. It is no laughs. It's just, I hate Ziggy for it. And we're going to be discussing it a lot, and it bothers me. It bothers me a lot. I don't like the animal cruelty. I don't like him feeding his duck whiskey. It bothers me. Frank is super smart, letting them follow the clean can. I love it when Major Crimes gets every cog moving, but Frank is lucky and smarter than he looks, and that's how it goes. But it's not all fruitless. They get the number 2 Spiros, the number 2 Greek, and celebrate McNulty. To celebrate, McNulty takes out Beatty for just one drink and then sees her home. All this showing that even he is not a dog. He leaves. He can be respectful. The episode ends with Frank telling the Greeks to them to slow the operation down temporarily. This season is kicking. Here we are. We're moving on, guys, and let's go with a 7, 7.5. A tier, getting into the A's, and yeah, we're getting close. Only 3 episodes left, right? Yeah, Stray Rounds. Now, in a season of cold opens, this is the best one, easily, and. Yeah. So, where was I? Stray Rounds? I freaking lost my place. Bad Dreams. Stray Rounds. Tim Van Patten. Nice. Okay. Dang, this show does have the best cold openings. Bodie defied the wishes of Stringer last episode, and he boots the crew off the corner, and now they come back, and a gunfight erupts. It's all pretty pointless, and the little kid dies for pretty much no reason. It's super tragic, and also what's chilling is how routine it looked for the family when not to be hit by stray bullets. So it shows how such a regular routine thing is when they hear the gun fire outside, and they're like, "All right, guys, do this." It's super, super chilling. Let me jump ahead really quick. Yeah, I am missing an episode. Okay, I'm missing a thumbnail. We'll get back to it. And so yeah, it's probably the strongest cold open to the season, and that's saying something. Okay, enough about the first 4 minutes. We see that the Greeks switch up Frank since Frank noticed the flag on his phone, and the unit does not know why everyone's switching up. We also get to meet Bunny Colvin as he comes down to the corner where the kid was shot. I love that a full season before Colvin becomes a regular, we see him and we can tell already that he's over the drug war, which is, his major character arc. The police crack down on the west side. The Greeks set up Nick with White Mike. String and Prop Joe meet up. Prop Joe is playing 3D chess on Stringer, showing us that this old dealer, telling us about this old dealer who just sold dope, saw a lot of money and never saw a jail cell. Prop plants the idea to Stringer of his package, and it makes Stringer think it's its own idea because Prop Joe is playing 3D chess, like I already said. Ziggy gets the duck killed, y'all. I know y'all know how I feel about animal cruelty. This whole storyline makes me sick. Anyways, Dominic West, a Brit doing an American accent, doing a bad British accent is freaking funny. I love this episode pretty much just for that. I think it's great of seeing him do a really horrible British accent when when Dominic West was actually British. Great little performance. McNulty goes to talk to the FBI, and we learn that the Greeks have an informant in the FBI. We learn. They don't know yet. Homicide brings in Bodhi, and Bodhi plays these two like a fiddle. Ray Cole points out the wrong gun, and he totally realizes that they have nothing. Meanwhile, when Ziggy is into murdering ducks, he is planning a Grand Theft Auto heist. And I got to give it to the little jerk. It's a good plan, even though I hate him in this episode because he killed the duck. This episode ends with the three big things. Stringer convinces Brianna to go behind Avon to deal with Prop Joe. The Greeks FBI guy gets a huge score and cutting out the competition and giving the FBI guy like a lot of clout in his industry. And last but not least, we get Cromwell and the rest of the crew are taking down the prostitution ring in the most McNulty way possible. He's banging two chicks. It's pretty messed up when you think about it, of how these girls are part of the modern slave trade. So it's kind of messed up on McNulty's part that he's having sex with them. But in his defense, he was outnumbered. I'm kidding. That's a line from the show. And the fallout is Velchek calling them all rat fuckers, which is another I think Velchek is so funny. As much as I hate his character, he nails it. Also, there is the Brother Muzone is on his way from New York. This episode has a freaking lot in it. It is jam-packed, and yeah, it is definitely super high A tier, and I am giving it a 8.5 out of 10. It's a good episode. It's a very good episode. All right. Storm Warnings, episode 10. This episode starts off with another killer cold open. Prez listening to Johnny Cash, which actually happens again later on, walk the line as he organizes all the clues and organizes a whole room that they're in, major crime room. It jump cuts with Herc and Carver following the wire, and then it ends with him going, fucking A. It's a great way to start this episode. I love the cold openings. The episode starts proper with Stringer telling Bodhi about the deal with the East Side. Any scene with Cheese, played by Method Man, is awesome. You guys know how much I love Method Man. I'm a big Wu-Tang guy. I'm not lying. Just like last season, we see that Major Crimes unit is finally caught up with the criminals being on the main phones and the players of the Greeks. Well, except the Greek himself, which they never get on his phone. Meanwhile, there's a fun scene with the towers with Bodhi trying to outsell Cheese. I love it. Cheese calls Bodhi a cottage cheese chest ass motherfucker. If that's not worth it, if Method Man going, you cottage cheese chest ass motherfucker, isn't worth it. It's like, what? Okay. Also, we also get the seeds of Herc and Carver being treated like lapdogs. That will come into play later on. Ziggy pulls off his heist with Johnny 50, and it works out. Brother Mazzone standing off with Cheese is one of the best scenes in the entire show. Cheese asks if brother's mom leaves his clothes out in the morning, and then he shoots him. Brother Mazzone shoots Cheese, and then after that, Prop schools Cheese about how about going after brother is a really bad idea. And then he plays 4D chess, not 3D chess, 4D chess, and then he gets Omar on it. Daniels gets the unit in bed with the feds, and the scene then comes off. And the scene when they come in, when the feds, that's what I'm trying to say. So when the feds enter the office, and Bunk and Lester are like, all right, you take the 3 on the left, I'll take the 3 on the right. It's great. It's awesome. I love it. Yeah. All right. So I love how the show, I love it how the show plays with parallels of, anyways. That's what I'm trying to say. So Bunk and Lester have the standoff, just like the standoff going on in the towers between East Side and West Side. That's what I mean by parallels. What happens next? Oh yeah, Ziggy goes to get paid and deal with and Double G or Gleekus gives him a lower rate for all the cars that Ziggy steals. And then Ziggy goes back in there, guns blazing, and kills him. So it's sudden and super out of nowhere, and I love it. So this is kind of why I think this happens. So Ziggy is finally done with being pushed around. Yes, he does say that later. But the fact that Nikki gets 20% and Ziggy gets 10 is why he did it. That's what I'm thinking. So it's not only him feeling insecure and being pushed around, but he's feeling insecure about how well Nikki does and maybe how his dad even likes Nikki more. So it's not just him being tired of being pushed around, but Ziggy does this because he's tired of being inferior to his cousin Nikki. And I think that's super subtle, and I love it. I hate Ziggy as a character, but I do like that he is still a dynamic character. Still killed the duck, and I'll never forgive him for it. Yeah, where was I? So the way it's shot, so when he leaves the electronics store after shooting Gleekits, it's shot all chaotic and it goes very blurry, and he's still holding the gun as he's walking down the street, and then he gets into his car, and then you're hearing sirens, and it perfectly puts us in Ziggy's shoes of him being just overwhelmed by what he just did and completely in shock. And yeah. So when he's in the interrogation room with Landsman, we really see that it really messed with him. And Ziggy isn't Weebay or Bird or any of the muscle from season 1. He can't really live with the murder, and it really messed him up quick. Meanwhile, the unit is all over them. The boat is they're all on the boat watching the house, and then Fritz sends out an email, and then kaboom. The FBI guy now knows that they are still watching. And back at the Union Hall, Frank and Horseface are shooting the shit when Nick comes in to tell them about Ziggy. It is super powerful when Frank is asking about Ziggy, why Ziggy's so close to the Greeks. And he says to Nikki, "You're his cousin." And Nikki fires back with, "You're his father." It is so good. Pablo Schreiber is so freaking good. I'm glad that his career has picked up a lot. Like, he's playing Master Chief in the new Halo. Pablo Schreiber is so good. Herc and Carver argue over fries, and as Spiros drives past them, with only 15 minutes left, Velchek enters the Major Crimes office and starts to complain about how Sabaka was supposed to be the target. Stan Velchek is yelling at everyone, and it gets pretty funny because Stan's actually super funny, even though he's a piece of crap. Prez growing balls and punching Velchek after he calls Prez a shitbird. It really makes me think of Prez standing up to an abusive father figure. Prez started this season trying to get the approval of Stan, and Stan trying to control his career. And now he finally has enough and punches them. I think it's a really awesome, arc for Presbeluski. Okay, where was I? Spiros tells Eton to go to the store and get rid of all of the evidence and get rid of all the phones. Spiros sends a text. Spiros sends a text, and McNulty writes down the time, and then the show shows how dated it is when the boat cop says, "Oh, it's texting. My kids love that shit." it's oh, you're so 2003. Back in the office, Lester, Fritz, and McNulty try to figure out how to capture the text. They learn that they are shutting down operations. Nikki goes to the playground and gets drunk with Prissy. So Prissy was mentioned earlier. She is the chick that Ziggy fake knocked up. So yeah. So Pablo Schreiber again kills it with his I'm not going to do the impression, but with his college kids ain't shit monologue. And I'm really sad they don't keep him on as a regular for the rest of the show because he is so good. And I love the whole reminiscing after your friend pretty much will never longer be in your life again because of him killing that because Ziggy goes and shoots those guys. And it's like, go to the playground and drink. And it's a really powerful scene. The episode ends with their drugs being washed down the drain thanks to the cops' bureaucracy. They missed it again. A lot in this episode. I had to talk about a lot. It is definitely high A tier. And B. Not A, B. Sorry, 8. You know what? 8. 8.5. There. How's that? High A tier. 8.5. All right. So bad dreams? Yeah, bad dreams, not bad dream. Sorry, I gotta get my last slide in here really quick. There you go. So this, hey, guess what? Another really good cold open. We see all the cops start taking doors and breaking in everywhere, and we see Nikki went home with Prissy, so he avoids the raids entirely. You blink and you miss it, but we learn that Ziggy's name is Chester. How about that? I love how pissed Daniels is when he learns that Landsman caught Ziggy killing Gleekus and not telling anybody. Belchek brings in Frank Sabatka, and it's this nice full circle of how the whole scene started, or how the whole season started because of their dick measuring contest, buying the windows, and now this. We get a tiny cameo from David Simon when they're bringing Frank out. He's a reporter, so he's actually the scene that I got the thumbnail from, adjacent to Frank. When we see his point of view, we get to see one of the show's creator, David Simon, right there. None of the Greeks they bring in are talking or even giving a name except Boris. Why always Boris? I know his name's Sergei, but I always call him Boris. Why always Boris? The first of many scenes where Chris Bauer as Frank Sabatka. So I think it's Chris Bauer as Frank Sabatka. This is his episode, all right? I'm going to say that right now. He owns this episode, and Chris Bauer, if this show got any of the recognition it deserved when it was coming out, he would have got Best Supporting Actor in a Drama Series award this season because he deserved it. And he deserved it for this freaking episode. He is so good. Chris Bauer, I think, should get he needs to get acknowledged for how good of an actor he is. He's in so much. He's in like True Blood and The Deuce, and you see him kind of show up all over the place. But this is the first time I ever saw him, and Chris Bauer is so good as Frank Sabatka. This is his episode, 100%. I'm gonna keep saying that, but yeah. So, his first scene that is really great is when Velchek's talking to him, and he gives this help. The FBI's talking to him, and the FBI says, "We just want to help." Or why don't you help the union? And he goes, help the union. It's such a cool little speech he gives to the feds in this episode. And in the interrogation room, which I already said, Stringer gets Omar on Brother Mazzone, all because Prop Joe is secretly pulling all of the strings. White Mike talks and gives them a bunch. White Mike completely flips. Ziggy and Frank have one last scene. It is very emotional. Ziggy explains that he is tired of being a punchline. We get a small window into Zig's life when he talks about his addict mom and how Frank was too focused on the union. I do hate Ziggy, mostly because of the whole duck murder thing, but and also the human murder too. That too. I'm not putting the life of a duck over the life of a human, but still. But he is still sympathetic. He's still a complex character, and he's not as bad as the fan base really says he is. A lot of people hate Ziggy, so I will give a shout out to James Ransone, who makes the character as hated as he is, but he is still sympathetic. Frank visits Nikki's dad and learns that Nick is dealing drugs. This scene is low-key really great. Frank's brother calling him out. Frank goes to work, and he takes Little Big Roy's card so he can work the boat, and sends Roy to go get drunk at the bar. Frank works to clear his head. I love it. It's something I do when I'm stressed at work and everything feels like it's falling apart and my mental health isn't super good. I dive into physical work to shut my brain off. It's something I do, and I understand why Frank's doing it. I find physical work really therapeutic. Beatty follows Spiros and does a really great job showing that she, came a long way from the beginning of the season. Frank gets his next great line when he's talking to Brucey and learns that everybody is stepping away and that he failed the union. And he says, we used to make things in this country. Now we just put our hands in other people's pockets. And it's reminiscent of what Spiros said to him a few episodes ago of, didn't you guys used to make things there? Didn't you used to make things in this country? Spiros is at dinner with the big boss Greek, and we see their plan is to keep Frank, try to keep Frank, and we also see how fond Spiros is of Nikki. Butchie's dog makes a cute little cameo to distract Lamar so Omar can sneak up behind him. So the girls come up holding the dog, and they're like, where's the party at? Where's the party? And when Lamar doesn't care about them, he then goes, what's this good boy's name? So, yeah, so Butchie's dog totally, he's an accomplice. That's all I'm saying. Where was I? Yeah, so Omar can sneak up behind him and give him the rest. He's arrested. Omar has a great scene with Brother. Brother gets shot and somehow still convinces Omar the truth. And seeing the two cold bastards together is great. I love this scene, and I'm so glad that we get to see them work together in later seasons. Bodie talks Frank into coming in. Meanwhile, Beatty talks, not Bodie. Beatty, Russell talks Frank into coming in. Meanwhile, Spiros gets Nick onto their side. So Frank flips to get Nikki moved to the safe jail, and he can't give them. Yeah, so he can't give them all up without his attorney, so they foolishly push it off to the next day, one more day. So again, with juxtapositions, we have Nikki talking to the Greeks like he's going to go to that side, as Frank is talking to the cops like he's going to go to the other side, and it's happening at the exact same time. Super cool. Juxtaposition. Okay. Then I'm about to say a Greek name, so it's going to be great. Then the Greek song of death starts to play, and it's Effigy by Stelios Kazantzakis. I don't know how to say this person's name, but it plays most of the rest of the episode as we see the facts that says that Frank flipped. So the facts that says that Frank is talking to the police gets sent out, and now we get our final Frank scene of the episode. This is truly his episode, and he has so many powerful scenes. So he talks to Nikki, and Nikki unknowingly gets him by gets him killed by talking him into going to speak to the Greeks. So Nikki doesn't know that him convincing Frank to go speak to the Greeks is what's going to get him killed. So it's kind of on Nikki, but he doesn't know. And it's like this race now. Does the facts that says that Frank is a rat get to the Greeks before Frank does? Spoilers, yeah, it totally does. So it's like this race between the dock worker and a piece of paper, and the paper totally wins. This episode ends with Frank walking up to the Greeks, and it fades to black. They get a call from the FBI guy, and then we see Frank walking into certain death as it fades to black. This is another packed episode, and you know what? It is low S tier. This episode is 9 out of 10. It's good. It's a good freaking episode, and yeah. All right, guys. Final episode. You made it an hour in. We're almost done. Thanks for watching. Let's get this last episode. Portland Storm. The season of cold opens. This one starts with the body of Frank getting brought in as the Union boys, including Nikki, watching horror. I'm glad that we don't get to see Frank's death. Our imaginations will just tell us how brutal it is. And it being dumped at the docks is clearly a message to the dock workers. Lasman gets all of the faxes. I keep talking about faxes of all the headless and handless bodies due to something they hear Boris say to White Mike on the wire. Does he have hands? Does he have a face? Then it wasn't us. Stringer visits Brother Mazzone and it is chilling. Brother threatens Stringer without saying anything. He just says the word them, and we see how threatened Stringer is by just that one word. We don't really get too much Bubbles this season. We only saw him in the beginning of the season when he was trying to get Omar back into the fold. He gets caught trying to steal from an ambulance and cuffed by Santangelo. Remember Santangelo? Herc and Carver start planning on leaving the unit. Daniels informs us and Velchek that they now have. Daniels now officially has a major crime unit permanently. And the scene of Daniels and Velchek is good. Daniels threatens him, saying that they can write on it, but they don't. But then if they did, they would have to say the full story, including Velchek being a jerk. So Velchek makes a deal and gets Prez back after 2 months of a crap shift and a letter of apology. So they do get Prez back after that. Lester just happens to be there when Nicky turns himself in. Spiros talks to the Greek, and we learn that Spiros isn't his name, and the Greek isn't even Greek. These guys are next level for sure. Bubbles tells them that the East Siders are sharing the tower with the West Siders, which is starting up the major storyline for next season. Nicky talks to the major crime unit, feeling guilty about getting Frank killed. He gives them everything he can. He doesn't put any Union guys in. He gives he even gives them he even points out what the Greek looks like to them. Meanwhile, Herc and Carver are still waiting on Nicky, even though he turned himself in yesterday as is already in witness protection. The major crimes didn't even tell them. They are rightly very pissed, and this is the final nail in the coffin, and they leave the unit and go back to narcotics. It's a really cool scene with Carver. Like, last I heard, I still have stripes, which means he's a sergeant, and he's like, I'm going to go, back to narcotics and work for Colvin. They're very rightly pissed. Bunk, Lester, and Daniels and Beatty are standing around the table looking at the torso pics, and Bunk says, "Baby, there's a police detective somewhere else looking at a table of heads right now." I love that so much. Love that line. They match the tattoos from the pic of the guy missing with the torso, and boom, all the Jane Does are solved. Butchie and Omar figure out that Prop Joe is messing with them. Bunk and Beatty go to Philly for the vid of something unusual happening. That's a joke. They get the tape of the murder. Kima has a moment where she realizes that she may not be the mother type. Spiros has his final meeting with Prop Joe. They rightfully leave the last shipment on the docks because the cops were definitely looking into it. It just shows how smart these guys are. Stringer tells Avon that brother left, and Avon still schools him on street because he's like, why would you ask a gangster like brother that? So Stringer still doesn't understand how the streets work. Then he agrees to let him see Prop Joe to share the package. So Avon finally is okay with the Stringer Prop Joe deal to share the package and share territory. It is subtle, but the hesitation of Avon pounding his fist to Stringer against the glass already shows us that there is a rift forming. So it's very subtle, but Stringer always holds his fist up to the glass, and Avon hits it and goes, us. This time it's like, and he's like, us. Like there's that little bit of hesitation, and it shows us that they're already not trusting each other a season before that becomes a thing. I love the show. Buck and Lester get Boris, always Boris, to confess to his part in the murder of the guy, and all of the girls and the murders are now all down. They get to the hotel just minutes too late. Greek and Spiros are already at the airport, and then when the person at the airport asks him, is it business or personal or business or vacation or whatever she says, and he goes, business, always business. The Greek is clearly the biggest gangster in the entire show. The unit goes to the bar at the end of the episode. Fritz tells Daniel that it was his camp that leaked. Nikki leaves witness protection to go to work. I don't know if this signifies him leaving the program, so I'm not really sure. But the music, so I don't know if Nikki leaves the program. I think that's what it signifies. So he can go back to the docks, but yeah. So we get our music montage, just like last season. It becomes a major thing, right? So, where was I? We get the music montage as a season ender, just like last season. I love these. So through the montage, they either tie up loose ends or they set things up for next season. There you guys go. That was our final, and I'm giving it a 9 out of 10, a low S tier. I'm sorry if you guys are some of the people who dislike this season, but I do not. I think it has some really, 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 really strong episodes and really strong performances. And yeah, like I said at the start, it's not bad at all. I made a character, or as I said earlier, I made a video talking about the deeper meaning of the season and its theme. But all that aside, it has great character moments, powerful moments, and performances, and actors powerful performances from actors that never really make it out of this season besides a couple cameos. Standouts are Pablo Schreiber as Nikki, Chris Bauer as Frank, and yes, James Ransone as Ziggy. So all the Sabatkas totally kill it. I'll end it here. Please don't look down on the season. That's what I have written. You guys made it. An hour and 10 minutes. Can you believe that I was originally writing all of my Wire ones so I can do all 5 seasons in one video? God, that would have been horrible. It would have been a freaking 5-hour or 6-hour long video. Yeah, if you have watched it and made it this far, please click like, please subscribe. But also, if you want me to give you a shout out in a later video, if you type in the comments, you can just do a normal comment. But if you hide somewhere in the comments, let's say, which one? If you somehow write all prologue or like, oh, I really liked all prologue as well. If you get all prologue somewhere in the comments, I'll give you a shout out the next video that I record after I see it. So there you guys go. Hour and 10 minutes. I'm going to go drink some water. And thank you for watching. I will get season 3 out eventually, but like I said, I'm going on vacation, and this video is coming out while I'm on vacation. But I will work on season 3 soon. Thank you. Please go watch season 1. It's probably going to be somewhere right here, and even go watch The Death of Work. One of these. And you guys have a good one. That's all.